know, in the news right now we have Bernie Matta. And Bernie gave away a huge amount of money. There were whole foundations that were depending on Bernie's generosity. And so he had a lot of good that he was doing. Well, he's wealthy, yes, but he was also collecting money and was redistributing the money. That's going to come out in the months ahead. But what was it about him that people trusted to turn their money over to him? And it was because he was committed to increasing the amount of good in the world. He was not just saying, me, mine, for me and mine, you know, I'm going to hoard, I'm going to pull it together. No. He was circulating the wealth of people who were very wealthy. Now, this is going to come out. It's not in any of the newspapers or the news services, but it's going to come out. And people are going to kind of get uncomfortable with that, because they won't understand that there's a metaphysical principle behind it. See, if you don't have a plan for what you're going to do for the great good you are asking God for, then you don't have any way of steering to get there. It's kind of like when we were kids. Do you remember we would have what they call box kites? And there would be two balls of sticks, and there would be a paper kite. And if you tied the string around it and tried to fly the kite, it would basically go, crash, crash. And some adult would come along and say, oh, no, you have to have a tail. You have to put a tail on the kite, or else it just keeps crashing. And so you learn to, you know, take some rags and tear them up and make a tail. And you discovered that the longer the tail was, the higher the kite would go. Because if it was a short tail, it would go up to a particular point and then not have enough of the counterweight that the tail created to be able to be stable as the stronger winds higher up hit it. So you learn to make longer tails. And sometimes your tail would be 4 or 5 times longer than your kite. Right? And then you would watch it go really high. Now, this is a physics principle. We know this works in physics, but it works also in economics. J.C. Penney, when he died, he was in his 90s, he was giving away 90% of his wealth. 90% of his wealth. Come in, he would give it away. Had it planned. That only left him 10% to live on, which was a measly $100 million a year. See, people have this idea if they give away some of what they have, they will have less. Right. Instead of recognizing that it's like the tail of your kite, you'll be able to go higher. Tony Robbins discovered this. And in his books, he'll say, hey, don't start tithing. Don't think you're going to start tithing when you make your first $1 million. You won't. What you have to do is begin tithing off of that first $100 that you get. Set aside 10, give it away. Do a good thing with it. And then as you get more and more, you will be able to do more and more good. And therefore you will be capable of handling more and more and more wealth. Right? Now, my talk today is right decision for right outcome. And so part of what you get to do is to make what's called a covenant with the divine. A covenant with the divine means that you write out a contract. Now, it's your contract. I don't have a pre-printed one for you to fill out. You write out a contract with God. And you say, you write out in that contract what it is that you want, how much money you want, you know, houses, relationships, health-wise. You write out what you want to have as your creative expression, the amount of joy you want to have in your life, the amount of success in your life, how how long you want to live with perfect health. You write all that out. And then you put what you're going to do for God, what you're going to create, what you're going to give away. What's your part of the bargain? Now, God doesn't ask you for a specific amount. God asks you to establish a relationship. That's really what the whole business of tithing is about. It's not a fixed amount. I mean, you know, it comes from an old metaphysical practice where you give 1/10. Now, clearly, J.C. was giving more than 1/10. He was giving 9/10. But what he was doing was creating a consciousness in himself, not a consciousness in God, a consciousness in himself that says, I have so much, thank you, send more. Okay? So if you can create that consciousness, and any of us can create that consciousness wherever we are. I had one woman get very upset with me saying, are you going to tell me that a welfare mother should be tithing 10% of the money that she gets from the government? My response was, it depends on whether or not she wants to build her consciousness. She doesn't have to start with 10%, she can start with 2%. It's the idea of creating a relationship so that you can build your consciousness. Because once you have the consciousness, once you have a consciousness that says everything I do will prosper me, God's action through me is to create more and more good. So I am accepting more and more good as the outcome of this action. So you have a right decision and you have a right outcome. Now this has unexpected benefits for us. Because if you do this kind of thing, you basically brace your consciousness open. You know, we talk about earthquake proofing our houses, earthquake proofing our businesses. Well, usually what that means is that you put additional braces in different places. You make sure there's braces underneath the house. You make sure that the doorways are braced. You make sure that the walls are strong and have enough support. What you're doing is bracing your psyche so that no matter what happens, you're not going to fall apart. You're not going to collapse. You will have that working for you. And after a while, it will become so automatic that you won't even remember when you started doing it. You just say, hey, you know, this works for me. I need to do this for me. We had a fellow in the congregation at one point who started practicing this, and his business took off. He was amazed at how much money he was making. He was amazed. People were coming from 50 miles away to do business with him. And he was just absolutely delighted. And then he planned a trip to a Club Med down in a tropical country. And he cut his giving in half because he started thinking, well, I want to have enough money so that if there's something I want to do when I'm down there, I'll be able to do it. I'll look really good and I will be even more attractive to possible ladies. And he didn't realize that what he was doing was that he was disbelieving in the flow of the divine. If you want more, give more. Easiest way to make it happen. If you want less, give less. Because it reflects back upon us our consciousness. Our consciousness is what is the motivating phenomena here, not the specific amount of money. If your consciousness is to have more, then you would have to be a person who thinks of themselves as having more, therefore they're